The Dallas Cowboys have a big decision to make with George Pickens. We'll tell you all of the different paths forward next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And on today's show, we're talking about George Pickens, the Cowboys all-pro wide receiver, who the team needs to make a big decision on over the next couple of days. They have the franchise tag available. But before we even get to those options, Landon, what should the Cowboys do here? Because we've heard some more rumblings that maybe they should trade him. You're hearing national people say you can't pay two receivers 30 plus million a year. What should be the final outcome here?
Well, let's start with that last part first. First of all, you totally can pay two receivers $30 million. I don't think that's what in question here necessarily. What should they do? I think for me, it's it's pretty clear. Like, I think that they should sign him to a long-term deal if they're capable of, or at the very least hold on to him for this season. Because I think, for the Cowboys, they're in a situation where they're in a window, right? And Pickens is part of what puts them in that window at this point. It makes their offense good enough to be in the conversation. And if you get rid of Pickens with the idea of improving your defense, to what end at that point, right? Like now you've kind of thrown the balance off of it. You spun yourself out of probably getting to a chance of getting to being one of the elite teams in the NFC, which is going to be really tough next year. I think you have to kind of keep Pickens because offense has become a signature calling card. You're in a window with a quarterback who can leverage that offense well. I think you just have to find a way to use the picks you have and the resources you have to go with the defense. And that means that you need to figure out this Pickens situation sooner than later.
Yeah, and having George Pickens allows your defense some wiggle room, right? Like, you don't need necessarily a top 10 defense in order to win games. We saw that last year. Even as bad as their defense was, they were still competitive against good teams because their offense was that good. I think the Cowboys do need to structure a deal in a way that makes sense so that they can have some, financial flexibility to build a good defense, but letting a premium asset leave who is a great fit in your offense, who's only 24, that's just not great business. Now, I think they can be creative in the ways they get this next deal done, but I think ultimately it's best for Pickens and for the team to find a way to keep him in Dallas.
Yeah, I just think we've talked about it over and over again. They've had things lined up for this season being kind of a target season to make a run. And again, trading Pickens kinds of changes that window again. It pushes things out again with an aging quarterback. You just don't have time for that right now. So you need to kind of go all in on the next few seasons, and getting Pickens for some picks is not a move that you're doing if you're trying to win right away.
All right, so let's talk about all of the different options the Cowboys have with George Pickens, because they actually have more than you think, and they actually have more leverage against David Mulligetta than they had this time last year with an all-pro player. We'll get to that next.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ETHOS.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here is a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you guys, companies like yours made 27 hires already on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through all the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel is going to hook you up. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. And here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the entire experience. If you're already looking at the board now that we're post All-Star break and thinking about which teams can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. I love betting on the futures market. I like betting on who's going to win the divisions, who's going to come out of each conference, and it's all available on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com to get started and use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. The off season doesn't exist for the everydayer club. Join the group chat to talk Cowboys year round and get every episode of the show ad free. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes. All right, Landon, let's talk about the different paths forward here, because the Cowboys actually have a lot of different moves. What are the most realistic outcomes that the Cowboys could, or moves that they could make here over the next couple of weeks?
Well, obviously, the franchise tag is just basically what's been kind of hinted at, right? And I think it makes some sense. And tagging at some point, and I think that is the most likely outcome, and it makes the most sense. It maybe really is a discussion about which tag to use, and I think you can kind of walk us through this. But let me just talk about the tag in general, right? It's not necessarily to create a contentious situation. It's in order to just secure the services as they start a negotiation, and I think that can be augmented potentially by the way in which tag specifically they use. Can you walk us through kind of which tags and what are the different rules real quick?
The most common that everybody knows is the non-exclusive franchise tag that would pay George Pickens $28 million this year. That would be that he's actually a free agent. He can negotiate with other teams, but if he were to sign a long-term deal with another team, they would have to pay 2 first-round picks, which is not happening. No team is giving up 2 first-round picks. Now, that couldn't be negotiated. Very rarely does that happen. The other tag that's out there is the transition tag, and I believe that would pay Pickens $25 million fully guaranteed. So it's $3 million less. The difference is for that one is he is a free agent. He's willing. He can talk to any team. Any team can make him an offer. And if he signs a deal, the Cowboys have right of first refusal, which means they can match any deal that comes up. The good thing with that is it helps maybe set a market. And if Jerry Jones and David Mulligetter are way off on their, their numbers, you let him hit the market, you see what the market sets for him. And then if you think it's too much, you let him leave, you get a comp pick. And if it's a deal that you want to match, you match it, and great. We've got a deal done. We don't have to go through all this summer nonsense. So those are the two tags, but I'm expecting it to be the non-exclusive franchise tag.
Yeah, because I think honestly, like, the issue here is not necessarily that there's a malcontent situation. I mean, that obviously could always develop. I think the problem is that there is just really a truly lack of understanding on what Pickens' market is, right? I think he's obviously a top end wide receiver one. He was in the Pro Bowl. He was second team All Pro, if I'm not mistaken. So there's obviously, he had an incredible year and he's a valuable player. But there's also a lot of teams that are just absolutely not interested. That changes his value. He still is only a year removed from being traded for a third round pick. And I think there are some teams that are going to be really careful here. So I don't think it's quite the same situation as it is with Micah, right? Where you automatically knew that this guy was going to get $45+ million from whoever was going to have the opportunity.
Every team,
any team would have done it. I don't think that's the case necessarily with Pickens, even though he plays a position that's in high demand because of some off-field stuff, or not necessarily off-field stuff at all, on-field stuff that has happened with Pittsburgh and previous teams. The reason that he was available last year for a third-round pick and not commanding multiple first-round picks like we're talking about with some of these tags. So, yeah, I think that gives you an opportunity to let the other kind of teams work in your favor to help you negotiate the situation, and prevents you from getting into maybe a contentious situation where you're having to argue about your value. Because I do think that's the thing. The Cowboys have more leverage here than they did with Micah Parsons, but the kind of uncertainty of Pickens' market, that's where there may be more friction, right? Is because it's not just about the leverage, it's about the fact that there's uncertainty about what Pickens is worth in the open market. And you don't want to risk actually letting him go in the open market.
A couple things on the transition tag. Pickens would have to sign a deal that he would be willing to play on with the team. And that's a tricky part. If you're George Pickens and you sign a deal for $34 million with the Titans, maybe that's not a great team fit for you, but that's kind of the risk. If Dallas doesn't match it, okay, now you're stuck with the prime of your career in Tennessee. The other part of this, and you mentioned it, is that Pickens was available last year to any team in the NFL for a day 2 pick. That's all the Steelers were asking for before the draft. Nobody had any interest. And that was him having 1 year of, I think it was $1.1 million on his contract. Nobody was interested. The only reason the Cowboys were interested is because Tedero McMillan didn't fall to them at pick number 12. And they didn't draft the receiver, so they had no other choice but to go out and get Pickens. Pickens had a fantastic year. But I don't think there's going to be teams lining up to pay him $34 million a year for the next 4 or 5 years without having him in their building for at least a couple seasons. You might get 1 or 2 teams, and they might not be ideal destinations for Pickens. And that's why I ultimately think this does get done, and Pickens is on the Cowboys for an extended period of time here in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely agree. It's a complicated market, but the Cowboys have to find a way to take advantage of it.
All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Cowboys ad-free plus members-only Discord access and more. Head over to lockedoncowboys.supercast to join the club. And for those of you on video, we can send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make your second listen the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.